It's a special night as we'll be recapping all of 2023 with our SmackDown Awards. My name is John Zindel. I'm joined by Dom Scarcella. Dom, go ahead and tell the people a little bit about yourself.
John, SmackDown is not running any new matches tonight, so we don't have any new matches to talk to. They're doing a recap of the year. Why don't we do a recap of what we've seen on SmackDown and sort of a recap of our channel as well? So without further ado, John, don't bury the lead. Let's take us to our biggest award that we're going to give out here on our 2023 SmackDown Awards.
Let me tell you something, Dom. Many award shows will give you the no-name awards in the beginning, best comedy album, best this, and they leave album of the year for the end. We're going right to the top, and we're
MVP.
MVP of SmackDown. And the way this will be set up, folks, is we're going to give a men's award and a women's award for each of these. And we're starting with the MVP. Pretty obvious description, but the most valuable wrestler in this situation, most valuable wrestler on SmackDown. So, for the men, let me get my envelope here. The award goes to L.A. Knight.
Let me talk to you, right?
Yeah.
This one was kind of easy to do because, first of all, LA Knight's been on SmackDown the entire year. He didn't show up mid-year with the draft. He didn't start off there, get hurt, have to leave, and then come back later. Like, LA Knight's been on SmackDown all of 2023. He's progressively gotten better and better and better and better until he's main event status. And every time he comes on the screen, not only do we like it, but the crowd in the arena seems to like it too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the guy hasn't been in a bad segment, and frequently he's in a segment that saves the show, or his presence saves a bad segment.
Right.
This guy is gold, and he's been doing it all year. It's been a great ascension to watch. He's been very entertaining. He can go on the mic, he can go in his character, and he can go in the ring. But I like LA Knight. Think of where he started as Max Dupree of the Maximum Male Models, then became LA Knight, and then kind of became a joke. And it wasn't easy for him this year as well. Like, he was doing some video game stuff when creative didn't quite know what to do with him for a while. But was there a moment that stood out to you where you said, okay, LA Knight is clearly over with the crowd and he's making the show so much better?
A lot of stuff early on with Bray Wyatt wasn't any good as far as the storyline was concerned and the way that kind of it was creatively organized. Mm-hmm. And no matter what, he was getting over with the crowd, and he was so good on the mic. And it's sort of an anomaly to see a babyface so good on the mic, or really anybody. Sometimes they just kind of follow the template. They say some cringe jokes and they struggle out there. But ultimately, LA Knight hit it out of the park when he got the opportunity each time. And he got holistically over with the crowd. It wasn't anything that someone planned. It's like more like, wow, this guy's really good. And they just kept riding with him. So MVP goes to L.A. Knight for SmackDown. I think that one's pretty obvious because we watch SmackDown every Friday night. And every time Friday night, we have to look forward to him. And there's no questions asked. Women's, on the other hand, let me get the envelope out here. So, thank you here. All right, let's just see. So, the women's MVP goes to Bayley.
All right. Someone who hasn't wrestled a ton, but she's been important to the biggest storyline on the women's side, which has not only been the elevation of Iyo Skye, but sort of the reformation and reloading of Damage Control. And yeah, Bayley is one of those wrestlers to me for whenever she's in the ring wrestling, she's great. But she does so much else when she's not wrestling. Like when she's on the show and when she's in a segment, she makes it better, even if she's not the star in the ring. And I think that's just so valuable. Everything else that we've seen that's been elevated with damage control has been elevated off of her. Like she's the foundation that pushes everything else higher with her. I think she's just fantastic. And I still want to see her wrestle more because she's so good at it.
Hmm.
But everything else that she does has been so great that whenever she's involved, I figure it's going to be just fantastic TV.
So let me tell you, Dom, I will have to say the women's was harder to decide than the men's. The men's was very
Right?
obvious with LA Knight. But the women's division, and we've said this all year, has been on fire
Yep.
in the WWE. And as far as the women's on the SmackDown side, because we're only talking about the SmackDown side tonight, women's have been on fire, but ultimately Bayley takes it because of her versatility. She kind of has elevated the entire women's division, helping a lot of the younger people. And we'll get into some of the people on damage control that she's helped out. And overall, just very helpful for the SmackDown brand. And we have our two MVPs, LA Knight and Bayley. So let's go to our next award here. Our next award is going to be the SmackDown Match of the Year. So, folks,
yes, the rules for this are it has to be a match that appeared on a SmackDown on a Friday night. It can't be a pay-per-view match that involves SmackDown wrestlers or something from Raw or NXT or anything. Something that you and I would have watched on a Friday night, and even better if it was something that was not the night before pay-per-view that we could talk about on a live stream. So what do you got for Match of the Year? What say you on this?
let's pull out the envelope here for SmackDown Match of the Year. On the men's side, it goes to LA Knight over Finn Balor at the Bray Wyatt and Terry Funk Memorial Show.
Yes, that was quite a night. There was a lot going on that night that was very sudden. It was Bray Wyatt and Terry Funk had passed away just that week. In fact, Bray Wyatt had passed away, I think, within 48 hours of them having to go live on SmackDown. And so you can imagine what it was like for creative and for the wrestlers and for everybody involved to basically scrap a lot of what they had planned on the show and do something else. And while some of the stuff that happened on the show was probably going to happen anyway, we got a Rey Mysterio Grayson Waller match. We got an Iyo Skye versus Zelina Vega match. We did get a Terry Funk hardcore match, and then we got a really good tribute to Bray Wyatt to close the show. This match only went 11 minutes, but it was a one-on-one match. There were no factions at the ringside, even though Finn Balor's in Judgment Day. Finn Balor was over from Raw. LA Knight was there as a SmackDown guy. And those were two guys who had a history with Bray Wyatt. Finn had some great matches with Bray years ago. LA Knight had Bray's one and only feud that he had been involved in his most recent return to WWE. And I just thought it was such a great match. Like, what a great one-on-one match they had. It went 11 minutes, but it was fast-paced. Both guys worked really well together, even if they didn't have a lot of history together. And at the end, LA Knight recovers doing that great leap onto the top turnbuckle for the suplex and then hits the BFT for pinfall. Finn Balor looked tremendous, even though he didn't win. That was maybe the first time we saw LA Knight in a one-on-one matchup where he looked like a star, like they gave him the main event.
Mm-hmm.
They gave him that main event slot, and before that, they let him talk. And I think a match like this that I thought was Match of the Year and talked to you about, this is why LA Knight was MVP. Because he got to this level where he could do this on a really important show. He could be the guy who had the mic in his hand and then be the guy who wrestled the match that everybody needed. And I just think it was great. I mean, do you remember anything about this match other than because it was a few months ago? Like,
Yeah.
what do you remember about this? Maybe the atmosphere that stood out to you? Because to me, it was, it was really making the best of a somber situation.
I think that there wasn't any schmoz during the match, and it was
Right.
certainly memorable when he came out and shot the promo and then went over in the match. Finn
Mhm.
Balor's always good, and those are the things that are a bit more memorable for me. SmackDown match of the year is a little unique because pretty much the best matches of the year are typically on pay-per-view, but we'll have to go ahead and say, we're a SmackDown show, so we'll talk about the match of the year on SmackDown. And
And we're a wrestling show, so we want to talk about a match of the year.
Right.
Right? We
Right.
want good wrestling on TV, on the weekly episodic television show.
And we have some people here. We have them on. Actually, this is crazy, but we have people watching on Twitter. It never happened before, but they are now.
All right.
Some people on Twitch. Let us know what you think of the awards. Are they lousy? Are they good? Or are they dead on? Remember, we're only doing SmackDown. So
what say you for SmackDown match of the year? If you want to send it to us in the chat or in the comments. We just chose men's match of the year was LA Knight beating Finn Balor at the Terry Funk Bray Wyatt Memorial Show that ran on August 25th, that Friday after both of those great performers passed away, just days prior. So that was our men's match of the year.
And we had the men's match of the year, but it's time for the women's match of the year. Let me get the envelope here. Pull this out. And the award for women's match of the year goes to Iyo Skye over Asuka.
Yeah, this was September 22nd. And this was the first time that Iyo felt like a champion to me. Because we had talked in the months leading up to us that Bailey, who we just talked about being the MVP, was kind of elevating Iyo Skye. And all of her matches were some kind of obvious interference. And Iyo was winning, but it's almost like she was someone else's side project. This match with Asuka, and maybe it's because they worked so well together. This match went 19 minutes. It started at 8:52. We have an 8 o'clock start in New Jersey. So this match went over the 9 o'clock hour, that changeover there. They gave them 2 commercial breaks, and they wrestled such a great match. This was pretty much a pay-per-view quality match. And it was so great for me to watch. There was like a little bit of tease of interference at the end, but not real interference. And so it just wound up being a great, almost 20-minute pay-per-view quality match. Asuka was tremendous, putting over her friend, and someone that they knew each other all the way going back to Japan. And Iyo Skye looked finally like a singles champion to me in this match. And what better time for it? That's kind of recent. It's within the last 3 or 4 months. So maybe there's something beginning of the year. And if people are watching us now, if you think there's something from early in the year that we're forgetting, but I think this was our SmackDown match of the year on the women's side. What say you, John?
Asuka's awesome. So I would say it's not a surprise that she wins, or she's winning the award for match of the year. She's been very reliable. She's done a little bit of a pivot to her gimmick, which is cool. So she keeps it a little bit fresh. Yeah, so that's the women's match of the year. But we have many more awards at this very, very prestigious award show. We have Taylor Swift in the crowd today with Travis Kelce, even though he has a game this weekend. They both made the trek to the 2023 SmackDown Awards. We thank you guys for coming.
Yes, we can see them. You can't, but John and I can see them up in their luxury box. They look like they're having a great time.
They're having a blast, and we thank them for coming out. We have Dolly Parton in the crowd too. Pretty unbelievable that she came out to support us. So, thanks so much for all the who's who for being here. But let's keep the show rolling. And let's talk about the important stuff here. So we're going to talk about the most improved wrestlers on WWE SmackDown. And we're going to start from the men's side. So let me get the envelope out here. And the winner of the most improved wrestler on SmackDown is Solo Sikoa.
And this has got to be satisfying for us, and especially for you. When we did our grading video at the end of 2022, we talked about people who were kind of, doing their jobs well, but who hadn't been in the spotlight yet. We noted a couple of dozen wrestlers who we graded at a C, which means they're competent. And then we said, okay, of the people in this grade C, who could we see stepping up? And you talked about Solo Sikoa.
Right.
So I got to say, since we just gave him the award as the most improved wrestler, you have to be satisfied by the progress in his character and his career that you've seen over the last 12 months, haven't you?
I do have to say, it seemed like he was doing a lot of Samoa Joe stuff, which is good. Samoa Joe is going to be wrestling this Saturday for the AEW Championship against MJF.
Yes, tomorrow night, yes.
And
against MJF, we may hear from him later.
he might actually come in via satellite, actually. But we don't want to spoil anything here. Samoa Joe, or excuse me, Solo Sikoa does a lot of like Samoa Joe stuff. He's positioned in such a great way where he's in part of this big bad faction, the Bloodline. And, you kind of said it earlier, alluded to it earlier. He was just kind of the stiff that stands there and doesn't do anything, like the big muscle. But he's progressed into a very good singles wrestler. So, and he just feels like a guy that he's moving in the right direction. He's adding stuff to his game as the year goes on. He's starting to do like a Yahoo scream, so he's starting to add elements to it. So I think
getting a little bit of mic time here and there. So he's more than just a thug. I mean, they've positioned him as the vice tribal chief to Roman Reigns' tribal chief within the Bloodline. He kind of leapfrogged both of his older brothers, Jimmy and Jey Uso, in kind of that rank there within the Bloodline. He's had a great year going from now remember, he was a rookie in 2022, so it's understandable that they didn't give him a ton to do right away in his first 6 months on the main roster. But the potential was there, and we got to see it in 2023, and we think we got the payoff, right?
Yeah, I think he's the most improved, and congratulations to Solo Sikoa. But now it's time for the Women's Award for Most Improved. So let's pull open the envelope here.
And we've mentioned her already. And again, the women's division seemed to have the most turmoil this year as far as top wrestlers being on SmackDown for the first 5 months, then being drafted over to Raw. And then sometimes we see them again. So it was a little tougher trying to choose a women's wrestler, wasn't it?
Yes, because it's so stacked, the women's division. But the award for the most improved women's wrestler is Iyo Skye. Dom, what do you think of that?
She was a tag team champion with Dakota Kai last year, and we thought they were great tag team champions. And again, we're going to go back to our grading video. We gave them the lowest of the B grades that we gave because they put on great matches and they had belts. But we wondered on the grading video, what happens when they drop the belts? Are their characters strong enough? Because Bayley's sort of doing all the character development for them. What would happen to these two if they suddenly drop the belts? And not only did they drop the belts, but Dakota Kai got hurt. And then Iyo Skye emerges as this singles wrestler. And she's really good at it. And yes, Bayley's helping her out, but now they're giving her more chances to talk on the mic. They're putting a belt on her and seeing if she can do it. And for the first couple of months, it seemed like she won Money in the Bank. That was a big stepping stone there. And the crowd popped for it. And even before that, she wrestled Bianca Belair in Puerto Rico, and the crowd was on Iyo Skye's side, even though she was supposed to be the heel. That's the first picture you got, like, oh my goodness, the crowd really appreciates her as a worker. And maybe WWE Creative saw that as well and decided, okay, we have to find something for her to do with her limited command of the English language and not being able to carry long promo segments. But they incrementally got her better at it. Her English has improved. Her promo work has improved. She's shown that she can be a great singles wrestler.
Mhm.
She still feels like Bayley's overshadowing her in the faction as a storyline angle. But there's no question that in the ring, Iyo Skye has made the transition from just a great tag team wrestler to a great singles wrestler, and from someone who had to be carried almost entirely from a promo standpoint to someone who now has a personality and can show some of it on her own. And I think that's improvement.
Right. All right. So that's
What
the
was your favorite there about the Iyo Skye moment that we got to see? Because I remember you bringing that up right away at that pay-per-view that the crowd is cheering Iyo Skye.
yeah, that was the moment when it looked like they had something with her. I think early on, I was like, because you were pretty high on damage control, and I was like, nah, I was a little bit murky on like liking them, but they've really come along in a long way because of her. And really, the Puerto Rico show really was a standout for me for really where she took off. So
And
that's a
then she
little,
got cheered at Money in the Bank. Like, she didn't get booed when she won it.
yeah.
She got cheered. So here was the crowd into her, even though Damage Control was supposed to be this heel team, this heel faction. Bailey's still getting booed, but Iyo Skye, like, the crowd was behind her, and creative went with it.
Right.
Just like with LA Knight. We gave LA Knight the men's MVP. Same situation for him, right? He wasn't supposed to be here. And the crowd made him do it. I saw a lot of that with Iyo Skye. She was, to me, most improved on the women's side.
So congratulations to Iyo Skye, winner of the women's most improved. I'm sure she's ecstatic right now at home as she gets this prestigious award.
Right? Yes.
We're going to go on to a special award here, and I'll have to explain this one.
Okay.
This is our Ricochet Memorial Award. This award goes to the person on WWE SmackDown that seems to lose all the time, but puts on good matches and we really like. So people go out and they lose and they're terrible and you're like, okay, cool, like get them off my screen. This is good to get rid of them. But really, the Ricochet Memorial Award is a compliment. You're losing matches, but we still like you. So,
and this goes back to last year when we noticed that Ricochet's really good, but he keeps getting beat.
Right.
We had a short about that. We had an edited video clip about that. We talked about it on live streams more than once. That Ricochet looks really good, and he's making other people look good, which is really important. And he seemed to be a great wrestler. It was obvious that he was really good at what he was doing, even though he wasn't getting his hand raised. He wasn't wearing belts. He wasn't in that position. So Ricochet, of course, is still active. He hasn't passed away. So Ricochet Memorial, just because of what he meant to us. Let's see, do we have a comment here?
Yes, we do have a comment from Kevin Abreu. And
so he's got a Miami Heat avatar there. I like that. Looks like a little basketball avatar there. Jobber control, damage control not working for me because they lose matches. That's understandable that would stick out to you. However, and maybe we'll discuss this, and Kervin, if you want to jump in again into the chat, they're a heel team. Heel factions famously do lose a lot, but somehow keep their gravitas. The Four Horsemen were famous for losing war games all the time. and being steamrolled by Dusty Rhodes and the Road Warriors and whoever. But they were just so cool and they were so important. And yeah, Damage Control, they're heels, so they're getting their comeuppance a lot, which they should as heels. Does it take away, because we gave Bayley MVP because of the work she's doing there. And we gave Iyo Skye most improved for what she's done elevating as a single star.
And Kerbin, thank you for the comment. Keep them coming in, guys. And I think it's a good point. When people are losing, they shouldn't be getting the awards, but we're going to give it to them anyway because it's on the envelope. We don't even know who's picked these. We're just the hosts.
And the Ricochet Memorial Award is about people who lose that we appreciate.
Yeah, in the vein of losing people. So we're going to give the Ricochet Memorial Award here on the men's side.
Kerbin thinks we could have given it to Damage Control.
Right, Kerbin, yeah.
Because they lose, but they're still important.
Right. So,
well, we've selected 2 singles wrestlers for the Ricochet Memorial Award here. What do you got in that envelope, John?
So let's just open up here. This is not an invoice for some work I had done on my house. This is an envelope. Okay. Ricochet Memorial Award goes to, from the men's side, Butch.
Butch, you got to take this one away because Butch stood out to you early, and you've been praising him every time we get to see him on SmackDown. Talk about Butch. He doesn't have a belt. He doesn't even have a tag team partner at this point because Ridge Holland's turned tail on him and left, and Sheamus has been hurt. So what about Butch makes him valuable even though he doesn't have a belt? He's really not in a belt conversation, and he doesn't even have a strong direction in a big-time storyline.
He loses matches, but they're competitive and interesting. Mm-hmm. And I think his skill set or his move set is really good. He does the finger manipulation, which nobody does. And I can see someone jump off a ladder through a table, and I don't bat an eye. But when he yanks at their fingers, it's unbelievable. It looks so nasty. I'm like, this is awful. So I really like Butch a lot, and he doesn't get a lot of time. But when he does get time on SmackDown, he makes the most of it. So he gets my Ricochet Memorial Award from the men's side. And then from the women's side, let's keep it moving here. So from the women's side, the award goes to Shotzi. Dom?
Shotzi, all right. Now remember, this is a SmackDown. We're giving her the Ricochet Memorial Award for SmackDown, even though, yes, in Survivor Series during the War Games match, Shotzi was on the winning team and was celebrating there. But for most of the year, she was, in a tag team that had to go out and lose, or she was a run-in that got beat up, or she was someone who they didn't know if they had a real long-term program for, but, Damage Control would bully her in the back to try and get Damage Control over as better heels and more formidable heels. She tried to get into a program with Bayley one-on-one.
Yeah.
That was kind of interrupted when Bayley did suffer a real injury at a house show that kept her out for 2-3 weeks. She did the shaving of the head thing. But Shotzi just kept reinventing herself. There she was again and again and again, and going out there on TV, putting other people over, making other people look good. And, we understand what goes into pro wrestling. It's important and I think prudent to recognize people who can do that.
And I think you even mentioned in the studio here, we're getting to a point, hopefully, where she gets out of the Ricochet Memorial Award and starts getting some wins. She had a huge win at War Games with the babyface team at War Games. So maybe she gets that push because she's done that so well, and maybe Butch starts to get his push too. We saw it with Ricochet, he lost all the matches, looked good, and then they started to put him over a little bit. Got elevated, had a program with Logan Paul. So maybe these two can kind of follow in Ricochet's footsteps. They're jobbers, but then suddenly, they start getting some heat and winning some matches. So that is the award that for our Ricochet Memorial Award, who are people that lose, but look good doing it.
And make the other person look good. Like, that's important.
Oh yeah.
That's so important to pro wrestling. Like, it's almost like on the women's side, we don't see her lap at Natalya.
Sure.
Right? Natalya goes out there when someone else has to look really good. Like, Natalya doesn't win a lot, but she wins in the sense that she gets the other person over and elevated.
Absolutely. And we still have a couple more awards here. Feel free to comment. Let us know what you think of the awards, if we're right, if we're wrong, whatever you'd like. So moving on here. We do have one comment.
Rumor said Shotzi versus Iyo Skye at the Royal Rumble. Okay, if she's going to get that push now, that'd be great to see.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, Curvin, keep them coming. That would be interesting. We've just talked about how good Shotzi's been, and she's been losing, and it sounds like she might lose again against Iyo Skye, but maybe she does it and she pulls off the W. But moving on here, we're going to
maybe she has another great match putting over the other wrestler and just cements her status as a Ricochet memorializer.
Right. Yeah, she would really hammer the Ricochet Memorial Award if she goes ahead and,
puts over someone on a pay-per-view title match, right?
Quite frankly, I hope she loses now, because that would really just solidify the award.
It would validate us for making up a ridiculous award and giving it to
her. Yeah. And I hope Shotzi's proud. I think she's at home with a tear in her eye as she receives this award.
I hope Butch is, putting his own fingers into manipulation right now. So happy that he's won this award.
So ecstatic. He's breaking his own fingers.
Dislocating his own digits there. Yes.
All right. Moving on here. We have Moment of the Year at SmackDown.
Okay. And this is only one moment. We're not going to try and pick a bunch of them. This is one fantastic moment of the year.
So that award, let me get my envelope here. And the award for moment.
I saw the nominees for this, and it looks like some of the nominees were from early in the year. So this would be good if we start talking about early in the year. We don't want to have just a recency bias here where everything we're talking about was second half or post WWE draft. A lot happened before WrestleMania and before the draft. So let's see what happens here. I do remember some of our nominees were from this time of the year.
So the moment of the year goes to SmackDown from Montreal. Sami Zayn's reception. Dom?
Yes! I feel like we shouldn't have anything to say about this because this was moment of the year because it was right before Elimination Chamber. The night before Elimination Chamber when Sami Zayn had what you and I think was Roman Reigns' best title defense.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that was the best match that we've seen Roman Reigns wrestle in his title defenses. And the night before, Sami Zayn closed the show. They played his old El Generico theme music, I think. He came out, and his hometown Montreal crowd went crazy. I think it's the biggest pop we saw all year was from way back in February. And Sami Zayn got in the ring, and I think he had a microphone with him, but he didn't use it. He stood there the whole time just looking around, grinning from ear to ear because the crowd would not let him speak. It was a reverse Dominic Mysterio situation where they're trying to boo him, off the stage and out of the ring. With Sami Zayn, it was just they would not stop cheering, and SmackDown winds up going off the air.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they ran out of time. Sami was still just getting a standing ovation from the crowd. That was like Sami Zayn got so over, and it was such a good reward for him for breathing new life into the Bloodline storyline towards the second half of 2022. And just to see that happen for him, what was fantastic. I mean, you remember watching that, right? It was 10 months ago, but we remember that, right?
Yeah, and that Montreal crowd was amazing. And that's really what and I kind of talk about this all the time in the show and mention this, but it's pretty much whatever the crowd reaction is really what drives a lot of like what is good and what is bad. And to see the crowd freak out about Sami Zayn, and they kept the momentum going into the next day. And I actually started to pop. I'm like, man, I want Sami Zayn to win and beat Roman Reigns. Of course, it doesn't happen. This is an offshoot pay per view, but probably for me that was actually the actual best match of the year, not just SmackDown. But so we'll give some love to Sami Zayn here for his run, and then we have 2 more awards here, folks. So let's do one here. This one might be fairly obvious, but we're gonna do storyline of the year. So let me just get the envelope for storyline of the year. And the storyline of the year goes to the Bloodline and the pivot from their dominance into their, dismay here. So the Bloodline, obviously the best story in WWE, all pro wrestling. For years, I'd have to say. This is probably the best story. What did you think of this award here, Dom?
This is another one where we're trying to get over the recency bias, because the Bloodline for the last few months has been very, very little of Roman Reigns on TV. Jimmy Uso being almost a comedy jobber at sometimes. Solo Sikoa being sort of caught in the middle there. Jey Uso's now on Raw. He's completely out of the Bloodline. But for the first half of the year, the turmoil in the Bloodline was as good a wrestling storyline as I can remember since the early days of the NWO. Like, this was the best pro wrestling from a major promotion in 25 years. And I think we'll call the pivot everything up to Jey Uso super kicking Roman Reigns.
Right.
At the end of that one SmackDown, after telling Jimmy, "You out," and then saying, "And I'm out too," and super kicking Roman Reigns, and what that led to eventually, that tag team pay-per-view match, and then Jey Uso getting a one-on-one with Roman Reigns. I think it was SummerSlam, somewhere around there. So that Bloodline pivot, it was most of the best stuff was first half of the year. But hey, that counts just as much as the second half of the year. And there was nothing SmackDown did after that Jey Uso sneaker to the chin of Roman Reigns that topped what had been building in the Bloodline up to that point. So I think that the Bloodline getting new life breathed into it was the 2022 storyline of the year. And them being able to pivot and not just wither away and die, unfortunately, like the NWO did, has been a great, great job of creative and of all the wrestlers and Paul Heyman involved in the Bloodline. And Kervin is back, agreed with the Bloodline storyline. Nobody cared about SmackDown, not even watching, until the Bloodline got elevated there. Kervin, if you want to jump back into the chat there, tell us at what point the Bloodline became very interesting to you, where now you wanted to watch. No matter what else was on the program, if the Bloodline was there, you wanted to see SmackDown because of the Bloodline. What time range and maybe storyline mini arc was that doing it for you there? And maybe we'll go through that for you, John. At what point was the Bloodline must-see TV for you? Because you talked about Roman Reigns and a terrible program he was in with Baron Corbin being a reason you stopped watching WWE a few years ago.
Yeah, that was many years ago, but that was bad.
What changed?
Kind of to Kervin's point, the Bloodline is SmackDown. It's the reason you watch it, because you wouldn't be really watching it. And we pretty much committed to watching every SmackDown every Friday night. And regardless, just going live afterwards. So Kervin, let you know, every Friday night after SmackDown, we have a show. If you want to go ahead, hit the subscribe button. We're on every Friday night. But
not tonight, because it's not a real SmackDown.
But not tonight.
We had to do something else.
Hey. So anyways, from my perspective, I think Kervin's right that it's really carried the show. And for me, it was so great with Sami Zayn being a part of it and then really belittling Sammy the whole time. That
Mhm.
was such a great, interesting dynamic, and like where the crack would happen. And it's almost kind of happened now. It's been quite the slow burn. I mean, it's
Yes.
very, very, very slow burn, but you can see the bloodlines kind of like de-escalated or been kind of shoved down a little bit with Jimmy Uso and Solo and Paul Heyman. Kind of just the three of them typically are there until Roman
But have
comes
they
back.
done it well, though? This is not like a storyline that fell apart.
Hmm.
Like this seems to be intentional, and I think it's been well done.
Hmm.
Like they're breaking up the bloodline on purpose, not because like people don't care anymore and it overstayed its welcome.
Right.
Like I like where the story's going,
And
even though it's no longer like the main part of SmackDown anymore because Roman's not there frequently, and so and really LA Knight has maybe supplanted them in the last couple of months as the must see TV reason for SmackDown, just
mhm.
because he's more consistently on TV and out there doing something. But yeah, for the bulk of the year, the Bloodline is the storyline of the year.
Yeah. And we got this is a good point too. The tribal court with Sami Zayn, awesome. 3 million people watching that 40-minute segment.
Yes, that was over on Raw, wasn't it?
Hmm.
Raw can afford to waste 40 minutes talking at the beginning of a show. SmackDown can't.
Hmm.
I do remember that. Yeah, that's the Bloodline angle was so big they kept bouncing it back and forth between Raw and SmackDown. And the WWE reasoning for that was, well, the Usos were the combined tag team champions, so they had to appear on both shows. And Roman at the time was the combined Universal champion, so he had to appear on both shows. But yeah, that so much great stuff.
And then we have one last award, and this award is specific to Don't Bury the Lead, our wrestling channel. So, Don't Bury the Lead, we're going to have a clicky. And you may be wondering, what is a clicky? A clicky is an award that has gotten us the most clicks for some of our videos, the most views, and we give it to one wrestler. So, let's get the envelope here. It's our final award of the night. So get the envelope.
I may have inadvertently blocked myself from sharing screen. Can you unblock me?
Before we give out the award, this is a live show, folks. Before we give out the award,
I seem to have screwed it up.
technical. This is like the U.S. What is that? A lot of award shows, the last award they blow it. I believe they announced the wrong movie a few years ago at the Oscars, and then they had both casts up there. So let's see here. Settings. Well, you go to share your screen and you cannot do it, Dom.
I apparently blocked. I hit the wrong button when I was closing out before.
All right.
Screen sharing is not allowed. Learn more in our help center.
Do you want to try dropping out and jumping back in?
I could do that.
Do that, and I'll explain the clicky and who won, and we'll go.
Yes, wonderful.
So the clicky goes to MJF. The clicky, this award, is given to us from Don't Bury the Lead to a wrestler who we feel has given us the most clicks to our channel. And that's without question MJF on YouTube here. So we will make little, small, short videos based off of our live streams we have here, and then make those smaller videos into like 3, 4, 5 minutes, something really quick, digestible And ultimately, it's MJF that wins this award. And we have Dom back, who will potentially share his screen.
Potentially. There is so much potential in this show right now.
And this is our final award, folks. We're going to do another segment here called Cheap Heat, where we talk about trending topics in the pro wrestling world. But we thank everybody here for joining. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce up in the balcony there. Thanks so much for coming, guys. I know, Travis, you're playing a game this week, and it's amazing that you're able to come out here tonight. Dolly Parton down here in the front row. Dolly, you look great as ever. Thank you so much for coming. And yeah, Dom, are you able to share your screen?
Maybe not. By the way, we should just call this "Don't Bury the Lead" Taylor's version, just to get a bunch of extra clicks on it.
I should just, yeah. If I put Taylor Swift in the thumbnail and just made the title Taylor Swift, we'd have like 400 people. So
this is I don't know why this it's not letting me buy again.
This is true. Dolly Parton made it. We've got all kinds of celebrities here. 50 Cent. We did not let him in. He's not big enough anymore. But 50 Cent did not make it in. Not big enough for us. We only take A-listers. We've only taken Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift, and here it is. The shared screen. Mr. Spellman said, "Wow, Dolly Parton made it. He's excited."
Aren't we all?
Right.
She's still doing it at her age. She's still out there singing. She's still out there dancing. She's still out there being just a wonderful person.
Mm.
But there we go. It's MJF gets our clicky of the year. This was this was our first video that we made, that you made, John, editing down our longer live streams into edited clips that got us 1,000 views. And this was from July. So it's been very recently that sort of we've been really pleasantly surprised by the turnout for some of our videos and the response they've gotten. You can see we're up to 393 subscribers. And we thank every one of you over there on YouTube. If you'd like to jump in there and subscribe if you haven't yet, please do. See if we can hit our next big benchmark. But is kayfabe dead? Logan Paul and MJF. And really, this was MJF carrying this video. We then did another one a little while later that got almost 1,000. It was just MJF on that Dr. Bo Hightower show getting a massage and shooting on Hulk Hogan. That got us another almost 1,000 views. And then, of course, it was Steiner Math. That was 3 months ago, back in September. This was fantastic. It was just MJF, hearkening back to the old Impact Wrestling days and channeling Scott Steiner. MJF is very talented, and even though we're a WWE heavy show, when we put out MJF stuff, it gets us viewers.
We got more.
People like him, and you like him too, especially because you watch AEW, don't you, John?
Yeah, MJF's awesome, and anytime we make a video about him, it seems to pop off. So he wins this year's Clicky, and that's our final award. We're going to talk a little bit about the people in the crowd here. Dolly looked like trash in that Cowboys get-up earlier this year, though. Sorry, Dolly, but F Dallas.
Mr. Spellman, are you not a Cowboys fan? Is that why you're saying that? I have a feeling this is maybe anti-Cowboys rather than anti-Dolly Parton. Which, of course, is acceptable. Sure, hate on the Cowboys. Do it.
Yeah. Dom, you are from the state of New York, so I know you're not necessarily as hateful of the Cowboys, but in this area for sure of South Jersey, which you've been a part of for a very long time.
Yes. Dallas is not welcome here.
Yes. All right. So that is the 2023 SmackDown Awards. MJF will be here later to accept his award. He's so excited that he wins a clicky. This is